There is a pattern showing up inside companies right now that almost no one is naming correctly. A client sends an email, a form gets submitted, a voicemail comes in, someone calls the main line, a chatbot handles something or doesn't, and somewhere in the middle of all of that, the actual message gets lost. Not deleted, not ignored, just absorbed into a system that was never designed to handle the volume, the variety, or the speed at which communication now moves. Most companies look at this and call it a process problem, or a staffing problem, or a customer service problem. It is none of those things. It is a systems problem. And until companies start treating it as one, they will keep applying the wrong solutions to it. What you're watching right now is an AI clone, a digital version of me, Ronald, the founder of Data Wonder. We build AI automation and voice agent systems for real businesses, insurance companies, accounting firms, medical clinics, organizations where communication volume is high, the stakes are real, and the cost of a dropped message is not abstract. I use AI every day, not to comment on it, but to deploy it. That's the perspective this channel runs on. If you're looking for a calm, grounded analysis of what AI actually does inside companies, not what it promises, but what it produces, consider subscribing. That's what this channel is built for. Now, back to the pattern. The problem with business communication is not that companies don't care about it. They do. They invest in it constantly. New CRM platforms, new ticketing systems, new communication tools, new customer service training. The investment is real. But the investment is almost always directed at individual channels. You fix the email response time. You add a chatbot to the website. You hire someone to manage the phone queue. You build a better intake form. Each fix is logical. Each fix is local. And because each fix is local, the system as a whole never actually improves. It just becomes more complex. This is the thing companies consistently underestimate. Communication is not a collection of separate channels. It is one system. And when you optimize each piece independently, without looking at the whole, you don't solve the problem, you redistribute it. The customer who doesn't get a response by email calls instead. The call queue builds up. The team member handling calls can't keep up, so voicemails accumulate. The voicemails don't get processed fast enough, so the same customer sends another email. Now there are two open threads for one issue, neither of which is resolved, and no one inside the organization has a clear picture of what's actually happening. That is not a staffing failure. That is a system failure. And the reason it keeps happening is that most organizations still think about communication the way they did 15 years ago, as something humans manage, channel by channel in real time. That assumption no longer holds. The volume of inbound communication in most businesses has grown significantly. The variety of channels has multiplied. Customer expectations around response time have compressed, and the workforce available to handle all of this has not scaled proportionally. In many sectors, insurance, healthcare, accounting, it has actually shrunk in relative terms because skilled people are expensive and the labor market is tight. So the gap widens, and companies keep trying to close it by adding people or adding tools, without realizing that neither addresses the underlying architecture. Here's where I want to be specific, because this is not a theoretical observation. If you look at a typical mid-sized insurance company, say one handling a few thousand active policies, the volume of routine inbound communication is significant. Policy questions, claim status updates, payment confirmations, coverage clarifications, renewal reminders, document requests. A meaningful portion of that communication is completely predictable. The questions are the same, the answers are the same, the information already exists somewhere in the system. And yet a human being is handling each of those contacts individually, reading the same email, answering the same question, looking up the same record, responding, moving on, doing it again. That is not where a skilled professional's time should go. That is where automation belongs. When we deploy voice agents in environments like this, the resistance is immediate and consistent. Clients tell us that their customers want to speak with a person, that the relationship matters, that using a voice agent will feel cold, impersonal, transactional. And I understand that instinct, but it confuses the mechanism with the outcome. The goal is not to remove human contact. The goal is to protect it, to make sure that when a customer actually needs to speak with someone, when the situation is complicated, emotional, or genuinely requires judgment, there is a person available who has the time and capacity to handle it properly. Right now, in most organizations, that person is buried. They're handling routine volume. They're processing predictable requests that a well-built system could handle in seconds. And because they're buried, the customer with a real problem waits or doesn't get through at all. The voice agent doesn't replace the relationship. It clears the path to it. If you find this kind of thinking useful, and I mean genuinely useful, not just interesting, it helps the channel reach people who are actually making these decisions. That's the audience this is built for. Now, here is where the second-order effect comes in, because this is the part most people don't see until it's already happening. When you start treating communication as a system, when you begin routing, filtering, and automating the predictable layer, you suddenly have data you didn't have before. You can see clearly and consistently what your customers are actually asking, which questions repeat, which processes generate the most confusion, which points in the customer journey produce friction. Not from anecdotal feedback, from structured, measurable communication data. Companies currently spend significant resources on customer research, satisfaction surveys, feedback loops, all of which are expensive and slow. And the answers they produce are often generic. Customers say they want better service or faster responses. That's not actionable. But when your communication layer is systematized, you don't need to ask. You can see. You can see that a specific type of policy question generates 3 times more inbound volume than any other. That a specific step in the onboarding process is producing confusion at scale. That a specific time of year drives a predictable spike in claim inquiries. And you can act on that, not reactively, but structurally. That shift from reactive communication management to structural communication intelligence is what separates companies that are actually getting value from AI from companies that are just adding tools to existing problems. There is also a security dimension here that most businesses don't think about until something goes wrong. When communication flows through automated systems, voice agents, intake bots, AI-assisted email handling, data moves through infrastructure that has an attack surface. Sensitive client information, medical histories, financial records, insurance claims, these are not categories of data where a breach is a reputational inconvenience. In regulated industries, the exposure is legal, financial, and in some cases, criminal. Deploying AI communication systems without addressing that attack surface isn't progress. It's a risk transferred without awareness, which is why penetration testing of AI-adjacent APIs and communication infrastructure needs to be part of the deployment, not a follow-up conversation. This is not standard practice yet. It should be. So where does this leave the companies that are paying attention? The ones who move forward on this, who start treating communication as a system instead of a collection of channels, will have a compounding advantage. Lower operational costs, faster response times, better data, more human capacity available for the work that actually requires humans. The ones who don't will continue optimizing individual channels and wondering why the aggregate problem keeps getting worse. Communication is no longer something that scales naturally with headcount. The volume is too high. The variety is too wide. The expectation is too fast. You need architecture, not just effort. The practical question, and this is the one I'd invite you to sit with, is where in your current communication system the predictable, repetitive layer actually lives. Not theoretically, specifically. Which contacts, which questions, which processes are consuming human time that could be systematized? That's usually where the conversation starts. And the answer in most organizations is more obvious than people expect. It's just never been looked at as a systems question before. If you're watching this and thinking about what this might look like inside your own organization, I'd be happy to talk through it. You can book a free call with me. The link is right below this video.